Hello, and thank you for tuning into this session on how we can enhance data quality in quantitative consumer research. So many big decisions are based on quantitative consumer research, but this type of research is being challenged by the ever-evolving data sources on digital behavior, and actual behavior for many sounds better than claimed behavior. So why are we still doing quantitative research? Well, first of all, it helps paint a more nuanced picture of a person and the segment they belong to. As researchers, we can ask about that person's attitudes and generalize it to the segment they belong to. And secondly, by quantitative research, we uncover a cognitive perspective that cannot simply be observed by behavior. But what happens the day when we don't ask the right questions, or even worse, the day when consumers can't be bothered giving us their answers anymore? It is of paramount importance for everyone who works in market research to prepare for the future. This is not a new problem for consumer research, but it's becoming more important every single day. As the market research unit at OMD, we work with brand and consumer research daily, and our goal is constantly evolving and being best in class. Therefore, we partner with Pureprofile to bring together the best of two worlds to uncover best practices in quantitative market research. We're super proud to be here today, having conducted a study with more than 10,000 Australians and doing just that. The biggest question we asked ourselves coming into this study was, how can we ensure and even increase data quality in our research? We know that asking the wrong questions leads to wrong answers. So we set out to test some of the most common questions asked in market research. If we can optimize these questions, we have come a really long way. So today we will unpack some of our study results and hope that we can all help improve market research and be part of future-proofing it together. My name is Mette White. I'm the Director of Marketing Intelligence at OMD. Alongside me today, I will have Natalie Widdop, who is a Senior Manager at OMD, and Katie May Gardner, who's the Account Director at Pureprofile. Together we have worked on this project since the end of last year, and we will use the results for years to come.
Quality has always been the top priority of our online market research business. As consumers' and businesses' awareness of the value of personal data has increased and even been amplified by the media, creating an environment which is both trusted and engaging has become paramount to our stakeholders and to us here at Pureprofile. As an account director, it is my job to work alongside my clients to ensure that their projects are a success from start to finish. We understand that big decisions are born from the data we provide, so it is vitally important that we also understand the impacts of questionnaire design, device optimization, survey length, and language used, as all are contributing factors to the quality of the results. When OMD approached us about this project, we thought it was the perfect opportunity to partner with them on a piece of research that could enhance the way we think about the designs of questions and use that knowledge to further best practices in our daily work. So how do we foster an environment where consumers want to participate and we help clients get the valuable insights they need? The focus for this research project: how can we ensure and even increase data quality in our research, aligned perfectly with our own intrinsic desire to answer this question. We're excited to be here to discuss the results of this study and how we can use this information to further support both our clients in their continual pursuit of optimal research standards and our own panel of consumers who participate in our online community. All of our projects start with a great quality panel. In 2019, Pureprofile rolled out a series of AI and machine-based learning solutions to develop first-class data quality and fraud detection technology. Using our proprietary technology, we not only verify that new and existing account holders are actually real people, but additionally, we continuously cross-check their responses on any given project against core profile data and responses provided to other surveys. At the same time, we invested in what we refer to as our panel care. That is the way in which we look after and educate our members on what it means to be a part of a research panel. Taken together, these initiatives help us ensure that our members are genuine in their desire to participate in our community and that their experience with us is also a positive one. With the quality of respondents accounted for, we focused on the sampling methodology for this project. We knew it was of high importance to keep the sampling method consistent during this period, and we made a clear plan for this before starting the project. First, we agreed on a base size of n equals 1,000 respondents per project, and we ensured that that sample was representative of the ABS demographic statistics, which also included household income. Second, we took advantage of our automated control functions to ensure all age, gender, and location quotas were interlocking and sampled evenly throughout the fieldwork. Finally, each project was launched on the same day, each week, and was kept in field for the same timeline of 6 days.
So having gone through the methodology, we're now going to turn to the study results. The research was conducted with 10,000 people, and we asked them 20 different questions. Each week, we had 2 different variations of the same question, which at the end gave us more than 500,000 data points to be analysed. We had 3 key areas of interest for this research. First of all, we wanted to understand how to best capture brand awareness. Secondly, we wanted to understand how we can optimize the use of scales in quantitative surveys. And finally, we wanted to understand how to best capture a qualitative question in a quantitative environment.
So, how do we capture true brand awareness? To answer this, we had 2 key considerations. The first being how we asked the question. Half of the sample were forced to provide an answer for every brand through the use of a scale that ranged from never having heard of the brand through to being very familiar with the brand, while the other half were allowed to freely select from the brands that they were aware of from a list. The second being whether or not we should prompt respondents with a logo. Half of the respondents were asked brand awareness with a brand name only, while the other half were asked brand awareness with a brand name and logo. The results were significantly different based on how we asked the question, with the forced choice method proving to yield higher levels of brand awareness, and was the case for well-known brands as well as niche brands.
So the big question this raises is, are respondents really just looking to take a shortcut to get shorter surveys? We tested this with a really long list of brands, where one set of respondents were giving brand awareness as we would normally ask it, and another set of respondents were giving brand awareness with the statement that the number of brands they selected wouldn't impact the length of the survey. And what we found was there's absolutely no difference between having that statement and not having that statement. So it's not true. Respondents are not looking for shortcuts. That raised the second question. Is it then an issue of familiarity? You can imagine how a person is thinking, I know this brand, but I actually don't know it well enough to answer questions around it. So we've now come up with our best practice. We will ask brand awareness on a familiarity scale. Giving us true brand awareness, we're getting a higher awareness because we're forcing people to answer, but we're also getting the granularity of the familiarity with the brand.
Moving on to our next consideration, where we question whether or not we need to include a brand logo when asking brand awareness, we can see that the results were actually very similar whether or not we did include a logo, meaning from a data point of view, there's really nothing that proves their worth.
So on to our second key area of interest, which was how can we get the most out of scales? But first, let's get one thing straight. The way that you design your survey is really going to impact how respondents are answering. And we knew this, but we wanted to test it as well. So what we did was we had one question on a 5-point scale, but we did not label the midpoint. And we also had another question to another set of respondents where we labeled the midpoint. What we saw was that we got a lot higher responses on that midpoint, showing us that by having labeled the midpoint, we're skewing responses towards that midpoint. Secondly, we also wanted to understand if direction on your scale has an impact on how respondents answer. So we had one question where we went from negative to positive, and we had another question where we went from positive to negative. And what we found was that there was almost no difference between how people were answering. So people actually do read your labels, they do read your scale.
To understand scale optimisation, we had two key considerations. The first was whether or not we should force respondents into having an opinion, where we asked half the sample questions relating to beauty, finance, travel and entertainment on a 4-point grid, and the other half the same questions but with a 5-point grid having a neutral mid-zone. The second being whether or not more points on a scale actually leads to more insights. So we asked the importance of different advertising techniques, with half the sample given a 5-point scale and the other half given an 11-point scale. We can see from the results that when we rebase a 5-point scale into a 4-point scale, we do see a higher level of disagreement, meaning respondents are less likely to agree with something that they're not too sure about, giving the data a more negative skew.
So to avoid this skew, we recommend asking on a 5-point scale. But the big question this raises is, do we care about those who really didn't have an opinion? And the answer is simple, yes we do. Because we can monitor those neutrals or those that didn't have an opinion, and we can understand how engaged the respondents are in a certain category.
Now looking at the difference in results on when we use a 5-point scale versus an 11-point scale, and we can see that the results follow a very similar pattern and that most of these attributes were considered important for respondents.
So we've just established that asking on a 5-point scale or an 11-point scale doesn't really make any difference in how respondents are answering. But in most categories, we actually don't see a lot of variance in what's really important to consumers or respondents. So how do we ensure that we get the best insights out of our questions? So what we have learned and what we're using as our best practice is to follow that question up by asking respondents, what is the one thing that matters most to them? And by that, we're really able to get those key insights.
Moving on to our last area of focus, where we question whether or not we can use qualitative techniques in a quantitative environment. The key consideration was whether qualitative techniques can improve open-ended questions. We coded the data into those who answered or attempted to answer the question and those who didn't, and the difference in results was quite substantial. The scenario-style question triggered more than twice the number of respondents into providing an answer. However, the average number of words per response was slightly lower, leading us to question if the quality of the responses would also be lower. So, we coded those that actually did give us an answer into those that were meaningful answers versus those that had an attempt but it wasn't really adding any insights. And again, the incidence of providing a meaningful answer is also higher in the scenario-style question.
So we established that the scenario-based question is better in giving a qualitative answer in a quantitative survey. However, the question is, how do we ensure that we get those meaningful answers? And the answer is, you have to test, and then test again. So what we do and what we have implemented as our best practice is when we do launch a survey, we have that open-ended question, we soft launch and we check the data. And if we're not happy with the responses, we change the question, we soft launch again, and we continue doing that until we're happy with the question and the answers that we're getting from it. So the key things that we learned from this study is we now understand how respondents are reacting to different types of questions. We understand how we can optimize our questionnaires for the future. And finally, we got reassured that the data quality coming from the panel is really high.
After analysing the results of the research with OMD, we now have a better understanding of how our panel members engage with our surveys and are proud of the quality of their responses. It's clear our members understand the importance of providing their honest answers and how it is up to us as representatives of the market research community to ask questions in a way that do not unconsciously bias those responses. In some instances, we can see how small changes to the way a question is asked or displayed, such as the addition of a midpoint to a rating scale, can have a massive impact on the responses provided. On the other hand, we also now know logos and images don't actually yield better results, particularly for well-known brands, and excluding these can save our clients time. All of the above information we can now use to further improve our team's knowledge and guidance when consulting with our clients on the design and implementation of research projects. Finally, our panel care team was thrilled to use this opportunity to provide insights back to our members, showcasing how their data is actually used. We find this helps our members further understand the value of their data, which in turn results in ongoing member engagement and high-quality responses. We are grateful to the team at OMD for the opportunity to partner with them on this, and to the Research Society for allowing us to share our findings with you all today.
Hopefully, the last 20 minutes have given you some inspiration to start improving and future-proofing your questionnaires. Going back to our key question, how can we ensure and even increase data quality in our research? We have definitely learned how to get better results from our quantitative surveys with a few simple steps. We have already implemented these findings and are confident that we're now getting better results from our quantitative surveys. Better results that helps our clients make better decisions.